Homer. I got a really wicked idea that could get us into a lot of trouble.
Oh, Mindy, we have to fight our temptation.
No, Homer. Let's do it. Let's call room service!
Oh.
Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 251. It is the last day of the week, aka the Big Bang Attack workout, and that is because things have been switched around. I have talked about this in the previous episode, right here, so see that as to why it is different. But anyways, to the main subject for today, temptation. Now, this one goes all over the place because this one is a all-encompassing one. It might not even be a one-parter. It might even be a two-parter. It just depends on how deep we get into this conversation. So I will probably even define it. It's one of those types of deals. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because yesterday I was ultra bored at work. I couldn't really do anything on stuff like remotely on my desktop. So all I had was my phone on me and my work computer. My work computer can't do really much on it because it's just, you can't do much on it. So then I was stuck to my phone and I was like, right now at this moment, I'm very tempted to open up Twitter, aka X, reactivate my account on there and just go doom scroll for like a good 3 hours because I had nothing else really to do. Work was dead. I did all of my responsibilities. There was literally nothing for me to do. I could have done maybe something if I asked for it, but even then there was really actually there was very little to nothing. I had done all of my responsibilities, so I just had time to kill. So I was very tempted to do that, but I decided against it, and that was a good idea because it's been 2 months now since I've done that, and it's been great, and I like not having that around because it really does bog down the focus and all that. But that's one part of it. The second part of it is the idea that I don't have many calories left in my daily eating of calories. So because of that, I'm very tempted to eat something right now because I'm still a little hungry, but I know that the temptation of food is just going to set my goals back a little bit in this case. So sure, it might just be like a one and done type of thing. Like I could just eat something small, like a fruit or something like that, which maybe I'll do, but I don't know. But it is something that is the temptation of food is still kind of there and it's lingering, right? And that's why one thing whilst on a diet is having to deal with temptation. But I wanted to just talk about this because generally speaking, temptation is one of the things that we generally fight every day, basically. So then that way we don't get into the base sins that we all accumulate and or just old habits that we would fall into that may or may not be doing anything for us. So it's just that old brain rewriting over and over again, just trying to get out of the ditch that you have already created somewhere in your life, So it all just depends, really. But I wanted to just talk about the general gist of what is temptation, the feeling that weird feeling that you get, and a few other things that go behind that as well, and just how it affects everybody in some way, shape, or fashion. And it's always interesting, even in fiction and things like that. So I wanted to just talk about that and a lot of the other stuff that comes along with it. So we will talk more about that when we get to Mother Base. All right, so started this day off with a single arm lat pull down, which was great. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand here. Temptation and or just temptation, really. So first, to define temptation. Noun, the act of tempting or the state of being tempted, especially to evil. Enticement is another way of saying it. Or two, something tempting. A cause or occasion of enticement. Interesting. Allurement is another way of putting it, but the main reason why I wanted to talk about this, I think, was just because social media has that allure. The doom scrolling is such an alluring thing. I don't think people realize how much of a pull that can have on you, specifically once you've been out of the game for so long. Going back in, it's literally like crack almost. I can tell you I can go like a week without going on like Instagram Reels, but then when I go back, sometimes I can go back heavy and hard, and this goes for many of the other things. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, which will be an episode in the future, but more so along the lines of food, sex, drugs, and money, all being things that people want to overindulge in and attempt to do evil things in order to get to each of them. I wouldn't say social media is necessarily the worst of everything that I just named before that, but social media can lead into the temptation to do a lot of the other stuff. It is very easy to open up the Instagram Explore page for many dudes and just see a crap ton of butts. It is easy to open a TikTok of a bigger person who watches nothing but food content. It is easy to do that with each of the things nonstop, money or drugs. Either way, people who are enticed by that usually get pushed by social media because they understand the type of user that they're trying to get. And it's interesting because sometimes the temptation really is something that is a hardwired thing in us, really, especially when it's become a habit. And I've talked about this in a previous episode. I will talk about it a little bit later, but I've talked about old habits dying hard, and it is very tough to live without the temptation of these things because it's hard. Sometimes you kind of just can't let it even exist in your world. Like for me, example, I can't have any particular foods that would be in the house because if I know it's in the house, I'm going to want to eat it. Probably like candy bars or Frosted Flakes. That's my one food that I want to eat at all times. And there are people that are like that. That's not just me. There are people like that with other things as well. If X is in the house or Y is near me, I'm going to be tempted to do it. And it's crazy because there's some willpower that has to go through it. You know, I respect certain people who are like former alcoholics that can even be around alcohol at all because there are some people who cannot even resist that, which is insane. But the temptation is really there. And then you have to just have the willpower to say no to it. Having the little angel and the little devil before you actually do something in your mind somewhat helps. But a lot of the time, the angel who's telling you things, hey, don't do this, don't do that, is a very quiet one most of the time. It's very hard to listen to them because most of the time they are relatively weaker than the devils. The devil is very tempting when it comes to these things. They know how to get you with everything that you want to hear correctly. And it's very tough to be away from that. But I think that most people, as long as you can have some level of patience, I guess, or a little bit of a pushback against the temptations of life, really, you can really get far. You have to know when you're doing something and going down the pathway of evil, I think. But I don't think everybody understands that. I think people are too open to the idea of whatever is tempting them isn't as bad as it could be. And I think you can see that a lot with different things, like different subject matters in particular, where it's not as bad as it could be is the basing point off of other things. Like, oh yeah, I only drink once a week. It's not as bad as it could be, which is fine up until a certain point. But however long the cope of it's not as bad as it could be gets to the point where I don't drink every other day, so I'm not drinking every single day. I'm drinking every single day, but it's just one beer. I'm drinking every single day, but it's just scotch. It's not tequila. I'm drinking 2 drinks a day, but it's not as simple as that. And it becomes a slippery slope regardless of what you do. And that temptation to just keep going down the rabbit hole, it will always be there. I feel like as well, a level of comfort also helps in letting that temptation go. Whenever you're just in a comforting place where you're just kind of chilling by, bored, almost nothing going on, really, you end up having that voice, the demon head or the demon voice come in and just say, fuck it, you're good, and just go down whatever rabbit hole you want to go down. And it's a hard thing to resist because, like I said before, they tempt you with everything that you want to hear. And it's a weird feeling to get that. Like, you're just like, I should just say fuck it, you know? But you have to do your hardest to say no. I'm no saint. It's hard to get away from that. The temptation of life, of just many different things, is hard to stay away from. You just have to fight through it. And that's it. That's really it. It sucks, but has to be done in order to get better. And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. So back to the main subject matter here. temptation. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because I was recently tempted to do and go back on something that I had just quit recently, aka Twitter, but that was something that was in essence small potatoes in comparison to everything else that possibly could be a vice, but the temptations for other things are still there. It does, just because there's a void left in my time doesn't mean couldn't be filled with something else that's equally bad, if not worse. See sports gambling. But that is just something that could happen. But thankfully, I have to resist the temptation of these things in order to make sure that my life is going in the direction I want it to. I think that's the main reason why I also wanted to talk about this, was just making sure that you, the viewer, are avoiding all temptations that may or may not be in your life, and make sure that they are shunned away, because obviously they can lead you down to dark roads that will lead you to hell. So might as well get rid of them as much as you can, because that's what I do, as much as I can, because sometimes you just kind of have to walk away from things before they end up consuming you. Now, is social media being able to consume me? Actually, yes. And you can see examples of this throughout all of them, because there are people who live to share their entire life on social media. I may have a channel like this where I share a lot of my ideas with the world, but I don't share every single thing on here, and some people do that. Also, they will also share the highlights of certain parts of their life and also the lowlights. See TikTok crying compilations here, and see Instagram pictures of somewhere in a vacation that's super fucking specific here. So it's all the same bullshit, realistically. The highest highs and the lowest lows are all shown on display. So that is somebody going down the rabbit hole of temptation and just wanted to show their entire life on here. But that's beside the point. The point is, there's still the want of go back into old habits, and just a complete execution of those types of old habits are the ones that are the worst, because they cannot die hard. See this video. But once you get used to doing it over and over again, for me, it is quitting social media and weight loss and consistency going to the gym. Once you've established a sort of a level or a consistency to your things, right, you will be able to resist the temptations of those things, those base nature feelings that you'll have, and you can move on to different things and fill the void with something hopefully better. And that's what I'm going to try to do, as I would like to read a little bit more, maybe some manga, maybe watch some anime. So those are things that, although in the small potatoes of things don't seem that much better, it is in the sense that I'm getting creative feedback from other people that I would love to see their creative stories, because those influence people. That's just how it is. But that's just something that is a discussion for a slightly different day. But for now, that's all I'll say about this. And with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one is more of a random one, kind of random, but kind of somewhat topical, but not really. I like to just talk about these things when they come to my mind. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. Keep it heavy. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.